It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce our next presenter. He's someone I've known my whole life. He's a publisher and editor of a popular Austin magazine, a martial arts instructor for decades, a Reiki master teacher, a Bach flower remedy consultant, is now actually starring in a series of Instagram posts to promote the new Twin Peaks movie coming up. So go to the Twin Peaks movie Instagram site, and he's channeling in an entity known as Killer Bob. So you can see Killer Bob. So at this time, I would like you to give a warm round of applause to me. And from time to time, people have asked me, do you have a particular spiritual persuasion? I mean, do you subscribe to any kind of belief system that you could be labeled? And I said, yes, I am a cowboy Buddhist. And I saved these guys till like the last minute for the presentation. So I was going to my favorite boot shop where they actually know me. And when they know you, when you walk in and they go, oh, we just got something in, you know you're a junkie, you know you're hooked. So I walked in, and it was a vintage boot shop, and they said, oh my God, we got these boots in. You have to see them, but don't worry, they're probably not going to fit you. And they brought them out, and I went, no, those aren't going to fit me, but I'll try them on anyway. And if they slid on my feet, and if I had been Cinderella, the prince would have married me, like on the spot. So they have 4 aces in the front, and on the back, they have red dice rolled to the number 7. So I can honestly say now, wherever I go, paradise follows. And then on the top, they have all these casinos, so like, my boots will be answering questions and giving interviews after the gig. Yeah, exactly. And they had tiny little scuffs on the toes that I got like my favorite boot guy to fix. And I thought, how did that happen? I mean, did some guy, was he gambling in a casino and they threw him out and it like scuffed the end of the boot? Did somebody shoot him over a poker game or something? So I cleaned them, I cleared them. They said everything was okay. And they said, can we go with you to the gig? And I said, of course you can. So when you embark on this path of the metaphysical, alternative, spiritual, holistic endeavors, then more and more stuff will start coming to you, and you'll just start going to seminar after seminar after seminar, and those of us that present them love you for it. Please keep doing it. But what you'll find is you will maybe have a few modalities that are the ones that resonate with you the most, and those are the ones that you'll kind of work with. You'll go play with the others, and you'll learn them, and hooponopono is just so easy. I mean, 4 phrases, 5 phrases are all there are. The ones that I work with the most are Reiki and Bach flower remedies. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about those, and then we'll talk a little bit about the law of attraction. Oh, Joe asked me to give some exercises, give you some things that people can actually do. So I thought a good thing to do would be do an on-the-spot demonstration of the law of attraction, because we all know the law of attraction. What you put out there is what's going to come back to you. And as you've seen this weekend, a lot of that is based on frequency, on vibration. If you're putting out a certain vibration, that's what's going to come to you. Yeah. So if you're putting out positive vibrations, you'll attract positive things. Otherwise, you'll attract another forgiveness opportunity, another learning experience. So everybody understands that concept, right? Can anyone stand up and demonstrate it for me, like right now on the spot? Good. Okay, I need a couple of volunteers. I need a couple of, thank you. There's one. All right, so here's what I want you to do. All right, so if you want to do this, you can stand up if you have room to move around a little bit where you are. So here's what I want you to do, is turn around, face that way. Or no, I'll tell you what. No, that's good. Face that way. You right-handed or left-handed? All right, so put your right hand out in front of you. Now, when I tell you to, I want you to just turn and point behind you as far as you can without twisting, turning, doing yoga poses. Just See how far you can point behind you and then pick a spot on the wall. So go ahead, turn and point behind you. Behind you, back here. Dixon put you up to this, didn't he? All right, turn this way. There you go. So as far as you can and point behind you. All right, good. So turn and look and see where you're pointing. All right, so you got a spot there? All right, put your hand back out in front of you, put it down. Close your eyes. Now I want you to visualize yourself doing exactly what you just did. Your hand is in front of you. I tell you to move. When I tell you to move, you turn and point. Only this time your hand goes like 6, 8, 10 inches further than it did before, 10, 15 degrees. So see that in your mind. Visualize your hand is in front of you. I say move, you turn, you point, but it goes much further this time, and it does it easily with no effort whatsoever. So 3s are good, so see it one more time. Your hand's out in front of you. I say move, you turn, and you point, and it goes way past this podium and extends way, way beyond where it was when you pointed before. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Oh, they open up. Put your hand out in front of you. All right, move, turn. I mean, that's how quick and easy it is. Thank you. And I didn't know enough to get out of the way. So, all right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, I mean, really, that's a demonstration that all you have to do is just change your thought patterns, and things will change immediately. Now, as somebody said the other day, you want to start changing the big stuff. You know, if you want to be, a champion weightlifter or something like that in 2 weeks, heavyweight champion of the world in 2 weeks. That's not realistic, But you can attract these things into your life. So the modalities that I attracted, the first one is Reiki. So I'm going to give you a little bit. How many of you know anything about Reiki? Good. Reiki masters, practitioners here? All right, great. Rei is universal. Ki is life force energy. Chi, it's the vibrational frequencies that are vibrating everywhere in the universe. And it makes up all of us. And as the brilliant thing that I just loved, like I was sold on the videos with Dr. Hugh Lin immediately. And he walked in, he said, this chair is sacred. This room is sacred. Everything is sacred. And as long as you remain sacred, it will stay that way as well. But as soon as you're not, then the vibration changes. I mean, okay, I get that. So what that means is on a subatomic level, we're all matter is energy, and it's all vibrating at certain frequencies. And if everything is in tune, then it's like the concert that's Michael or Joe or any of us it's like the band is playing in tune and the concert is harmonious. But if the third clarinet in the back row is out of tune, that can throw the whole thing off. And if 2 of them are out of tune, what is it? Jazz, right? Wasn't that what Matthew said the other day? So all these energetic healing modalities, whether they're Reiki, Bach flower remedies, hooponopono, are like a pitch pipe or a tuning fork. They give you that frequency again until you're able to reproduce it on your own. So they're not really doing anything, adding anything, subtracting anything. They're just gently reminding you of the high frequencies at which you can vibrate. Reiki does this through a hands-on procedure of the practitioner, just holding certain positions on the body. It takes about maybe 45 minutes or an hour to do a good Reiki treatment. And the way you become capable of doing this, well, you're already capable of doing this. The way you're reminded you're capable of doing it, the way you're given a format by which to do that is through an attunement process. So you are actually attuned, and your channel tuner is tuned to a particular frequency of this universal life force energy that's specifically resonating for healing purposes. And then the practitioner just gets out of the way, brings energy through, transmits it to the other person, and then it's up to the recipient to use it to heal to whatever level they're ready to heal. It was founded, created, or rediscovered, they say, by a man named Mikao Usui, who lived in Japan about the turn of the last century. And the story is that he was Buddhist originally, that he converted to Christianity, he traveled to this country, and there's a lot of different versions of this story. But the one that's sort of accepted as the gospel is he came to this country and he was teaching Bible history at a university in Chicago. And one day, one of his students said, "We have a question." He said, "Sure." He said, "Do you believe everything you've read in the Bible? Do you actually believe it's true?" And he said, "Of course." They said, well, could you demonstrate some of it? Could you heal somebody or raise somebody from the dead? Let me get back to you on that. So he begins to study Christianity and discovers, yes, there is, the ability to heal people. Of course, Jesus did it. The Buddha did it, but there's no instruction manual. He read all the Buddhist sutras, and he found reference to this, but no how-to guide. So I thought, well, I'm reading it in Japanese. Maybe I should read it in archaic Chinese. So he taught himself Chinese and read it. Still nothing. So I thought, well, maybe I should read it in the original Sanskrit. So he taught himself Sanskrit, and meanwhile, about 20 years has passed. And you can see these people back in Chicago going, you think he's coming back? Let's give him a year or two. Yeah. And finally, in desperation, he journeys to Kyoto, which is surrounded by temples and holy mountains, and goes to a Zen monastery to meditate and to contemplate this program. He's like in despair over being unable to find the key, the answer to what's going on. And the abbot of the monastery said, you should go to this sacred mountain outside of Kyoto, and you should journey to the top of the mountain, Mount Kuriyama, and fast and meditate for 21 days. And he does that. And on the literal darkest hour before the dawn of the 21st day, he still hasn't found his answers. He was picking up stones and throwing them away, because when you don't eat and meditate for 21 days, you kind of lose track of time. And this beautiful light came to him. Just journeyed to him as the dawn came up, and he realized that this was the answer he had been seeking. So he got scared and turned around and ran away. Now, none of us have ever done that. Ever found what you were looking for and gotten scared and run off? Of course not. We haven't done that. And then he stopped and went, oh, no, wait a minute. This is what I was seeking. This beautiful light will embrace me, will open my heart, and I will be filled with the keys to healing. So he opened his heart to it, and it hit him like a lightning bolt and knocked him flat on his back, and he thought he was dead. And while he was in this state, he had a vision, and these beautiful orbs of light floated in with some of the Sanskrit symbols that he had seen, and a voice said, here's what these are called, here's how these symbols are used, these are the keys to healing, please use them, don't let them be lost. So he journeyed back down the mountain. He had actually given a couple of kids, orphans that lived at the temple, some coins and said, if I'm not back on the 21st day, come up and get my bones, because I'm going to get the answer to this or die in the attempt. Very samurai, very do or die. And so they're coming up the hillside, meet him on the way down. He stubs his toe, cuts it, he puts his hands on it like you do, and the cut heals. It stops bleeding. He eats a big breakfast, and like not egg McMuffins, this is a Japanese breakfast of raw fish, and after 21 days of not digested easily, the girl that serves has a toothache. He puts his hands on. So this keeps going on and on. He's going, I think I'm onto something here. So he goes to the slums of Kyoto and lives among the beggars and begins healing them. And then he starts noticing that the people that he's healed, a lot of them are coming back with the same problems or worse. And he finally asked this one young guy, he said, man, I healed you. Why are you back here begging again? You could have gone and gotten a job, married, had a family. And the guy said, it's easier to beg. He went, oh, because he was under the notion that he was doing it for them or to them. At which point he established a very important principle of Reiki, which is it's the recipient's responsibility to accept this energy and to heal themselves. So all you're doing, and this has been the key to hooponopono, you're not cleaning, fixing anybody else. You're cleaning and fixing your perception of it. And when Joe called me and told me, man, I've found this guy, this Chinese doctor, and what he does is he sort of apologizes to people for creating them as less than perfect, and he changes his thought patterns and things. I went, that's brilliant. That's really all there is to it. So the attunement process is sort of an entrainment process. The person that teaches you, there's technique involved. You're taught how to do, a treatment on yourself, on other people, long distance. You're taught the different levels. But the attunement involves working with the Reiki symbols, putting them in your crown chakra, they go down to your heart, and you then become like a vibrational duplicate, a template of that energy. So when you go out, you're transmitting it to other people, and then they accept it and they use it to heal. There are 3 levels. There's a first degree, a second degree, and a master level. And now some forms of Reiki use additional levels from there, but those are the three generally accepted ones. And those are the ones that were kind of adapted when Reiki came to this country in the 1970s by a woman named Mrs. Takata. Dr. Usui, once he established this principle that the recipient had the responsibility for the healing, also came up with another important one, that there needs to be an exchange of energy. It can be in the form of payment, it can be in the form of service, it can be in the form of whatever, but you're more likely to benefit from this if you in return give something back to the person that has done the treatment on you. So good story, right? Despair, goes up to the mountain, he meditates. All right, not all of it is completely 100% true. So I did some research on this. Somebody asked me a question in a class once, and I said, I don't know, let me check on that and see about the symbols. And as I started researching it, I found out that Mikao Usui he lived in the late 1890s, early 1900s. This was the end of the samurai era in Japan. This is when westernization was coming in. And he was a great admirer of the old traditional ways, and he was actually born into a samurai family. Now, you didn't go out and say, I think I'll be a samurai, where can I sign up? You were born into that station in life. And this was an era when samurai were, starting to slip as the upper rung of society, and the merchant class was coming in as westernization came in. But he was trying to preserve those old ways, and in a way, his journey up the mountaintop was like his act of bravery, his act of courage, as it were. He was also a practicing martial artist. He studied Aikijitsu, which was the more combative self-defense form of Aikido. And he was involved in a lot of esoteric studies. He studied an older esoteric version of Buddhism. He studied Taoism. He studied Tibetan mysticism. There may or may not have been the actual occurrence that he taught. But the way I stumbled across this is I read a book, and then I found a reference to another book of people that had researched it and said, we checked with this university. There's no record of a Mikao Usui ever having studied here, much less taught here. And so I started thinking, well, this is kind of an alternative version. This is sort of a sanitized version of his history, because he was also involved in a lot of shamanic practices. He studied, you familiar with Shinto? It's sort of like they say the religion of Japan. It's not really a religion, it's a philosophy. The key tenet of Shinto is that everything is alive. Everything is inhabited by what they call kami, spirit, and it's all vibrating at certain frequencies. Sound familiar? This chair is sacred, this room is sacred, everything is sacred. And there are some places in nature that vibrate with a higher frequency, and when you go to these places, you absorb that. You're not taught this. It's not taught, it's caught. You absorb this frequency. We could have done this entire weekend, and everybody that presented to you could have gotten up and read the phone book, and you would have still gotten the value of the seminar. Don't try that. I did once. A lot of characters, but the plot, and everybody dies in the end. So it's an entrainment process. The idea is if you strike a tuning fork and put it on a wooden tabletop, the table begins to vibrate at the same frequency as the tuning fork. So he makes this journey up the mountain as like a quest. My version of this is he knew full well why he was going up that mountain. It was like a Native American, going on a vision, a spirit quest. He went up there with full intent and clear purpose in what he did. And for years I told people, because I do have a martial arts background, this is very samurai. The samurai, when they went into battle, if they were facing insurmountable odds or seemed that way, they would throw their scabbard away and carry their sword, like, I don't intend to put this back. I'm either going to come out on the other side of this or not, which gives you great power. We call it isagiyoku. It means without hesitation. When you decide to move, when you make a decision, do it. And do it with purpose, do it with force, do it with focus, do it with full confidence of what the outcome is going to be, which is the law of attraction. It's, you go in with the intent and you bring to you the energy, and then you get out of the way, and then God, Spirit, whoever provides you the tools to do it. And then it's your job just to accept it. So my take on this is that Mrs. Takata and her granddaughter established what was called the Reiki Alliance, and they're the ones that came up with the first degree, second degree, master level. It took a couple of years to do all of this, and it was hideously expensive. Master level alone was 10 grand. And I met people, and I didn't believe that until I met people that were saving their pennies.